Dear child, chosen one, the love you thought was lost is returning to your life. Something is shifting around you in ways you may not fully see yet, and the moment you are living in right now is not ordinary. There are seasons in life when silence feels heavy, when memories feel unfinished, and when the heart quietly wonders whether a connection that once felt real has truly disappeared forever. But listen carefully to what is unfolding, because sometimes what appears lost is not gone at all. Sometimes distance is not the end of a story but the quiet space where understanding grows, where hearts soften, and where time slowly prepares two souls to meet again with deeper awareness. The message you are hearing now is not meant to create false hope or fantasy, but to remind you of something subtle and powerful. Life often moves in circles rather than straight lines, and the love you thought had slipped away may simply have been moving through its own journey of growth. The truth is that certain bonds leave an imprint that does not vanish easily. Even when people walk different paths for a while, the emotional threads between them can remain alive, quietly waiting for the moment when both hearts are ready to see each other clearly again. Pause for a moment and listen closely, because if this message reached you today, it may be touching something you have felt deep inside for a long time but rarely spoke about. Perhaps you tried to convince yourself that the story had ended. Perhaps you told yourself that moving forward meant closing that chapter forever. Yet somewhere in the quiet corners of your heart, a small sense of unfinished meaning remained. That feeling was not weakness, my beloved child, and it was not foolishness. It was simply the human heart recognizing a connection that once mattered deeply. And now, something within the flow of life is beginning to bring clarity to what once felt confusing. If this message resonates with your heart, you are warmly invited to comment, "I believe this message found me for a reason." Your words may encourage someone else who is quietly listening. If you appreciate thoughtful and uplifting spiritual encouragement like this, you may also like the video, and you are welcome to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can continue receiving messages that support reflection, hope, and inner peace. And if at any point you feel personally moved by the message and wish to support the channel, you may use super thanks as a voluntary gesture of appreciation. Please remember that support is never required, never expected, and it is never connected to receiving blessings, miracles, or spiritual outcomes. Every message shared here is meant simply to encourage and uplift the heart. Now allow yourself to settle into this moment and continue listening with calm attention. The truth is that when a meaningful connection separates, both people often change more than they realize. Time has a quiet way of teaching lessons that could never be learned in the middle of emotional intensity. When two hearts first connect, everything can feel immediate and overwhelming, but understanding sometimes comes later, after distance has allowed each person to see themselves more honestly. During the time you spent apart, life may have asked you to grow stronger, to become more aware of your own feelings, and to recognize what truly matters in relationships. The same may have been happening on the other side of that connection as well. Chosen soul, there are moments when people only understand the value of a bond after they have experienced life without it for a while. Absence does not always erase love. Sometimes it quietly reveals how meaningful that love truly was. The heart begins to remember small details, conversations, laughter, shared dreams, and even the difficult moments that carried hidden lessons. Slowly, the mind begins to realize that what once seemed complicated might actually have been something rare. This realization does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gently, often through reflection, memories, and the natural maturity that comes with time. And when that awareness begins to grow, something subtle changes inside a person. The distance that once felt necessary may begin to feel less permanent. The silence that once felt comfortable may begin to feel incomplete. And the heart that once tried to close itself may quietly begin to open again. You who are watching this moment, consider how many things in life have returned in unexpected ways. Friendships that faded sometimes reappear years later with new understanding. Conversations that were left unfinished sometimes find their way back when both people are ready to listen differently. Life does not always follow the timelines we imagine. Instead, it moves according to the quiet rhythms of personal growth and emotional readiness. When two people have changed enough to meet each other with greater honesty, the possibility of reconnection can appear naturally, without force or pressure. That is why patience has been such an important part of your journey. Even when you felt uncertain, even when you wondered whether the connection had truly ended, time was still working quietly behind the scenes. Every experience you lived through, every reflection you carried, and every step forward you took was shaping the person you are becoming. And the same process may have been shaping the other heart involved in this story. Dear listener, do not rush to create expectations about how or when things might unfold. Life rarely reveals its answers all at once. Instead, it offers small signs of change, subtle shifts in communication, and moments of realization that slowly bring clarity. What matters most right now is not chasing the past, but remaining open to the possibility that understanding between two hearts can evolve in ways that were once impossible. Quiet heart, think about how much you have grown since the moment you believed that love was lost. The person you are today carries more awareness, more patience, and perhaps even more compassion than before. Growth like this is never wasted. It prepares you to experience relationships differently, with greater depth and honesty. If the connection you once knew is truly finding its way back into your life, it will not return as the same story you left behind. It will arrive with new understanding, new communication, and a calmer awareness of what truly matters. This is why the journey of separation sometimes becomes part of the healing itself. When two people meet again after time has shaped them, they have the opportunity to see each other with fresh eyes rather than old expectations. My beloved child, this possibility is not about returning to the past exactly as it was. It is about allowing something meaningful to evolve into a new form that reflects the growth both hearts have experienced. The love you thought was lost may not be reappearing as a repetition of old patterns, but as a deeper connection that understands patience, respect, and emotional maturity. And if that moment truly begins to unfold in your life, you will recognize it not through dramatic signs, but through a quiet sense of clarity. Conversations will feel different. Understanding will feel easier. And the connection that once felt fragile may begin to feel steady again. Dear child, as you continue listening to this message, there is something gentle yet powerful you must understand about the nature of returning love. When a connection truly carries meaning, it rarely disappears without leaving a quiet echo inside both hearts. That echo may become silent for a while, hidden beneath the responsibilities of life, the distractions of new routines, and the attempts to move forward without looking back. But silence does not always mean the story has ended. Sometimes silence is simply the space where reflection begins. And reflection has a way of revealing truths that were once overlooked. When people step away from a relationship, they often believe they are leaving something behind. Yet time slowly teaches them that certain emotions do not fade as easily as expected. Memories surface in ordinary moments. A song, a place, a familiar phrase, or even a passing thought can awaken the realization that what once existed carried depth. Chosen soul, this realization is rarely loud or dramatic. It arrives quietly, almost like a whisper. In the mind that asks a simple question, what if that connection was more meaningful than I understood at the time? As time moves forward, the heart begins to soften toward memories it once tried to ignore. The mind begins to revisit moments that once felt confusing and sees them with a clearer perspective. The distance that once felt necessary begins to feel less certain. The silence that once seemed comfortable begins to feel incomplete. And slowly, almost without intention, a door that was once closed begins to open again within the heart. This does not mean that every past connection must return, and it does not mean that every memory carries the same weight. But some relationships leave a deeper imprint because they touched something genuine within both people. Dear listener, when two individuals have shared a connection that was sincere, the lessons from that bond continue shaping them even while they are apart. Each person grows in their own way. Each heart learns through its own experiences. And eventually, there comes a moment when both people realize that the distance they once believed was permanent may simply have been part of their personal journeys. You who are watching this moment, think about the quiet changes that have already happened within your own life. Perhaps you have become more patient with yourself. Perhaps you have learned to listen more carefully to your own emotions rather than pushing them aside. Perhaps you have discovered that love is not about perfection but about understanding, forgiveness, and growth. These realizations transform the way a person approaches relationships. When you carry this new awareness, you no longer seek the intensity that once created confusion. Instead, you begin to value honesty, calm communication, and emotional presence. This kind of maturity creates the foundation for a deeper connection than the one that existed before. And if someone from your past has been moving through a similar process of growth, the possibility of meeting again with a different perspective becomes real. Pause for a moment and listen closely, because this is where many people misunderstand the journey of returning love. They imagine dramatic reunions or sudden declarations. But the truth is often much simpler and more meaningful. When two hearts reconnect after time has changed them, the first signs are usually quiet. A message may appear that carries sincerity rather than uncertainty. A conversation may unfold that feels more honest than any before. There may be a sense that both people are finally ready to understand each other without the misunderstandings that once stood in the way. Quiet heart, allow yourself to recognize that growth has been happening even during the moments when you felt uncertain. Every experience you lived through after that connection drifted away has shaped your emotional strength. Every challenge you faced has taught you something about patience and self-respect. You may not have realized it at the time, but these lessons prepared you to approach relationships with greater clarity. When a connection returns under these circumstances, it no longer relies on the same fragile patterns that once created distance. Instead, it has the opportunity to grow into something steadier. Dear listener, this is why the return of a meaningful bond is not simply about revisiting the past. It is about recognizing how both people have changed and allowing those changes to create a new beginning. In this new space, conversations become more thoughtful. Feelings are expressed with greater honesty. The connection that once felt uncertain begins to carry a quiet sense of stability. Chosen soul, imagine what happens when two people who once cared deeply for each other finally reach a place of emotional understanding. The misunderstandings that once caused confusion lose their power. The fears that once created distance begin to fade. Instead of reacting quickly, both hearts learn to pause and listen. Instead of assuming the worst, they begin to communicate with patience. This shift transforms the entire dynamic of the relationship. What once felt fragile becomes something capable of lasting growth. And this transformation is not created by chance. It happens because both individuals have walked through their own personal journeys. They have faced moments of reflection, moments of regret, moments of learning, and moments of realization. By the time they encounter each other again, they are no longer the same people who once walked away. They carry the wisdom that only time can teach. Dear child, there is also something important to understand about forgiveness during this process. When a connection returns, both hearts must be willing to release the weight of past misunderstandings. Holding tightly to old pain only recreates the same patterns that once caused separation. True reconnection requires the courage to see each other with fresh eyes. This does not mean ignoring what happened before. Instead, it means understanding that both people were learning at the time. Growth often comes through mistakes, and awareness often arrives after experience has revealed its lessons. When forgiveness becomes part of the journey, the past loses its ability to control the future. The relationship gains space to evolve into something healthier and more balanced. My beloved child, the most beautiful aspect of returning love is the sense of calm it brings when it is genuine. There is no need to rush, no need to force outcomes, and no need to create expectations. The connection unfolds naturally because both hearts recognize the value of patience. When two people meet again with this understanding, the bond they share begins to feel peaceful rather than uncertain. Conversations flow without tension. Time spent together carries warmth instead of doubt. And slowly, the realization grows that the love once believed to be lost has simply transformed into something deeper. You who are watching this moment, remember that the heart recognizes authenticity in ways that words alone cannot express. When a connection returns with sincerity, you will feel the difference immediately. It will not resemble the confusion of the past. Instead, it will carry clarity, respect, and a quiet sense of belonging. The person who once walked a different path may now approach the connection with a deeper awareness of what truly matters. And you, having grown through your own experiences, will meet them with the same understanding. This meeting of maturity creates the possibility for a bond that is stronger than before. Dear listener, life has a mysterious way of guiding people back toward the lessons they were meant to understand. Sometimes that guidance brings closure. Sometimes it brings friendship. And sometimes, when two hearts have grown enough to appreciate the connection they once shared, it brings love back into their lives with greater depth and honesty. Whatever form this returning connection takes, it carries the potential to reveal how much both individuals have changed. And that realization alone can become a powerful reminder that nothing meaningful in life is ever truly wasted. Even the moments of distance were shaping the path that led you here today, listening, reflecting, and allowing your heart to remain open to the possibility that what once felt lost may simply have been waiting for the right moment to return with greater clarity. Dear child, as the understanding of this message continues to unfold, there is a deeper truth that must gently settle into your heart. Love that once carried sincerity rarely disappears without leaving behind a quiet thread connecting two souls. That thread may stretch across time, distance, silence, and even misunderstanding, yet it does not always break. Sometimes it simply becomes invisible for a while, waiting patiently for the moment when both hearts are ready to see it again. The journey you have walked since that connection seemed to fade has not been meaningless. Every moment of reflection, every attempt to move forward, and every lesson learned from the experiences that followed has slowly prepared your heart to understand love in a deeper way. And this is why the return of something meaningful often feels different from the way it once began. It does not arrive with the same confusion or emotional turbulence. Instead, it appears with a quiet sense of awareness that both people have grown into new versions of themselves. Chosen soul, growth changes the way a person recognizes love. What once seemed complicated begins to look simple. What once felt uncertain begins to feel clear. The heart that once reacted quickly learns to pause and listen more carefully. You who are watching this moment, there may have been times when you believed that the story was over. Perhaps you convinced yourself that holding on to hope would only create disappointment. Perhaps you tried to silence the memories that occasionally returned when your mind wandered back to the past. Yet even during those moments, something inside you continued to carry the quiet memory of what that connection meant. That memory was not there to hold you back. It was there to remind you that meaningful bonds leave lasting impressions. When two people have shared something genuine, the impact of that connection continues shaping their emotional world long after they have walked separate paths. Dear listener, this is why time can become such a powerful teacher. When distance creates space for reflection, both individuals begin to see their experiences from a wider perspective. The mistakes that once caused pain begin to reveal their lessons. The misunderstandings that once seemed impossible to resolve begin to look clearer when viewed through the lens of maturity. And slowly, the realization grows that perhaps the separation was not simply an ending but a stage in the journey of understanding. Pause for a moment and listen closely, because the heart often recognizes change before the mind fully understands it. When someone from your past begins to approach life with new awareness, their energy feels different. Their words carry sincerity rather than uncertainty. Their presence no longer feels confusing or distant. Instead, it carries a calm honesty that was not present before. Quiet heart, this kind of transformation does not happen overnight. It happens through personal reflection, through moments of realizing what truly matters, and through the gradual awareness that meaningful connections are rare and should not be taken lightly. When someone reaches that understanding, their perspective shifts. They begin to value patience, kindness, and emotional presence in ways they may not have understood before. If the connection you once believed was lost is finding its way back toward your life, it is likely because both hearts have reached a place where they can see each other more clearly. Dear child, there is something important about the way life brings people together again after time has changed them. The reconnection does not demand perfection. Instead, it invites honesty. Two people who meet again after growth often discover that the pressure they once placed on the relationship has disappeared. They are no longer trying to prove something or rush toward a specific outcome. Instead, they simply allow conversations to unfold naturally. They listen to each other without judgment. They acknowledge the lessons they have learned from the past. And in that space of openness, something beautiful begins to grow again. Chosen soul, this is how returning love often feels when it is genuine. It carries calm rather than confusion. It carries understanding rather than assumption. The connection becomes less about intensity and more about presence. You who are watching this moment, consider how different the future can feel when both people approach the relationship with maturity. The conversations that once turned into misunderstandings now become opportunities for clarity. The fears that once caused distance begin to fade because both hearts have learned how to communicate honestly. This transformation creates a new foundation for the connection. It allows love to develop in a way that is healthier and more stable than before. Dear listener, when two people meet again with this kind of awareness, they are not repeating the same story. They are writing a new chapter built upon the lessons they gained from their time apart. Quiet heart, there is also a gentle reminder within this message about trust. When a meaningful bond returns, it invites both people to trust the growth that has taken place within them. Trust does not mean ignoring the past. It means recognizing that both individuals have evolved beyond the versions of themselves who once struggled to understand each other. This recognition creates the courage to move forward without fear. My beloved child, when love returns after time and reflection have shaped both hearts, it carries a depth that did not exist before. It becomes a connection rooted in respect, patience, and emotional awareness. Chosen soul, imagine the quiet strength that develops when two people who once shared a bond finally understand the value of what they had. That understanding transforms the relationship into something more meaningful than before. It removes the need for uncertainty. Instead, it creates appreciation for the presence of each other in a way that is calm and genuine. The connection becomes a place where both individuals feel seen and understood. Dear listener, this kind of love does not rely on dramatic gestures to prove its sincerity. It reveals itself through consistent actions, thoughtful communication, and the willingness to grow together. Pause for a moment and listen closely again, because the message reaching your heart today is not about forcing a specific outcome. It is about reminding you that meaningful connections often find their way back into our lives when both people are ready to appreciate them fully. The journey you have walked has shaped your understanding of love. The lessons you have learned have strengthened your ability to recognize sincerity. If the love you once believed was lost is returning, it will arrive with a quiet clarity that feels different from the past. Dear child, you will notice that the energy surrounding the connection feels calmer than before. The conversations may feel more thoughtful. The moments shared together may carry a deeper sense of appreciation. This is the sign that both hearts have learned from the experiences that once created distance. When two people recognize how much they have grown, they begin to value the opportunity to reconnect with gratitude rather than expectation. And in that gratitude, love begins to flourish in a way that is steady and sincere. You who are watching this moment, remember that the most meaningful relationships are not those that never faced challenges. They are the ones where both individuals were willing to learn from those challenges and grow beyond them. Growth transforms mistakes into lessons and distance into understanding. Dear listener, when love returns after this kind of journey, it carries a sense of peace that is difficult to describe but easy to feel. It becomes a reminder that the heart is capable of healing, learning, and opening again. Quiet heart, allow yourself to embrace the possibility that the story you once believed had ended may simply be evolving into something deeper. Life has a remarkable way of guiding people back toward the connections that help shape their emotional growth. When those connections return with honesty and maturity, they become opportunities for something beautiful to unfold. My beloved child, the love you thought was lost may not have vanished at all. It may simply have been waiting for both hearts to become ready to recognize its true value. And now, as life continues moving forward, that realization may gently guide two souls back toward each other with greater understanding, patience, and the quiet awareness that what was once fragile has now grown strong enough to endure. Dear child, as this message gently approaches its closing moments, allow your heart to settle into the deeper meaning behind everything you have just heard. Life does not always reveal its purpose immediately. Many experiences feel confusing while they are happening, and many separations feel permanent while they are still fresh. Yet time has a quiet wisdom that slowly rearranges the pieces of our lives in ways we could never predict in the beginning. The connection you once believed had faded away may have been traveling through its own unseen journey, just as you have been walking through yours. Both paths, though separate for a while, may have been guiding two hearts toward a clearer understanding of what truly matters. Chosen soul, this is why patience has played such an important role in your story. Without patience, the lessons of growth would not have had the space to unfold. Without distance, the heart might never have learned the value of what it once experienced. And without reflection, neither soul would have reached the awareness that now allows love to be recognized with deeper clarity. You who are watching this moment, consider how differently love can feel when it returns after time has softened the edges of past misunderstandings. What once felt fragile begins to feel steady. What once created confusion begins to bring calm understanding. Conversations that once seemed difficult become easier because both hearts now listen with empathy instead of fear. Dear listener, this transformation is not something that can be forced or rushed. It emerges naturally when two people have truly grown beyond the versions of themselves who once struggled to understand each other. When that growth becomes real, the connection no longer depends on the intensity of the past. Instead, it is sustained by respect, honesty, and the quiet appreciation of simply being present in each other's lives again. Pause for a moment and listen closely, because the final truth of this message is simple yet powerful. Love that returns after growth carries a calm certainty that does not need constant reassurance. It moves gently, without pressure, allowing both individuals to rediscover the connection with patience and sincerity. Quiet heart, if the love you once believed was lost begins to appear again in your life, welcome it with the wisdom you have gained. Do not rush to recreate the past. Instead, allow the present to unfold naturally, trusting the maturity that both of you now carry within. My beloved child, sometimes the most meaningful relationships are not the ones that began perfectly, but the ones that endured distance, reflection, and personal transformation before finding their way back with deeper understanding. And so as you leave this moment of reflection, carry with you the awareness that life often completes its stories in unexpected ways. What once seemed like an ending may simply have been a pause in a longer journey. If two hearts have truly learned, grown, and recognized the value of their connection, the path between them has a quiet way of opening again. And when it does, it reminds us of something beautiful and timeless, that love, when it is sincere and patient, has a remarkable way of finding its way home. Type Amen.